What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. Today it is the Lazy Daze channel, and we are going to be reacting to The Fallen of World War II, and it is created by Neil Halloran.
Yeah, Halloran.
If I'm pronouncing that terribly, we do apologise. But I've watched this before. Jack hasn't. It's a very good video. If you haven't watched it already, then go over to his channel. There'll be a link below, and watch it for yourself, and then come back to us. But if you have watched it before, then just enjoy our reaction. I think Jack's going to find it quite shocking. The information is crazy.
Okay.
It's crazy.
Yep.
So, what we're going to do is we're just going to crack straight on into this.
Alright, let's go.
The average lifespan of an American is 80 years. And an 80-year-old today was 10 when World War II ended, 4 when it began. A soldier who saw battle would have to be in his late 80s at least today. Generals, political leaders, the decision makers of the war, few are still with us. And over the past few decades, we've seen authors and filmmakers rush to capture stories from survivors before this connection of memory is lost. This project is not about individual war stories, and it's not about survivors. We're going to tally up the tens of millions of people whose lives were cut short by the war, and see how these numbers stack up to other wars in history, including trends in recent conflicts.
Soldiers and civilians.
We'll be counting soldiers and civilians separately. Each of these figures represents 1,000 people who died.
Yeah, so remember that.
Yeah.
Civilians were of all walks of life, whereas military deaths were almost entirely men. The average age was
These
about
little
23.
things are going to be representing 1,000.
In most battles, for every 1,000 soldiers killed, there were more than 1,000 who were injured.
Yeah, man. Over
word-
World War II, definitely. Like, they were just getting they were just going into war.
It was
like,
all the propaganda that was getting put
there
about.
was loads of propaganda. There was all sorts, man. Like, yeah, World War II. Like, it was crazy.
It was rough.
It was a crazy time period.
Casualty can be confusing because in military speak, it often includes both deaths and injuries, and anything else that takes a soldier out of service. Here, we're just counting the deaths. And we'll begin with American soldiers.
So each one of those are 1,000.
Over
right? Yeah.
400,000 died. Most of the deaths
full
occurred in the
Eagles.
European theater, fighting the Nazis. And about a quarter were in the Pacific, fighting the Japanese.
So even though they lost more people in the European side, that's because it was like
They were out front line.
They were out front line on the land bases.
Yeah, Pacific would have
but
been like
Pacific was island hopping, but the Pacific warfare was more horrible than the other one, than the European warfare, because of the type of warfare it was. It was guerrilla warfare. It was in the trenches, like
Guerrilla
in
warfare.
holes.
Guerrilla warfare is one of probably the most effective sort
Rebellion
of
tactics, not war
Because-
tactics. Were
yeah,
rebellion
yeah,
tactics.
because-
I'd agree with.
Like, general military can't handle guerrilla tactics. Guerrilla tactics is
Well, you can, but is the thing with guerrilla tactics is it's a forever ongoing warfare. You can't completely annihilate it. You know what I mean? It's not like taking down a political scheme. Once people have got that sort of radical, I don't know, man. It's an interesting type of warfare.
hang on, because guerrilla warfare was mainly used for like
Vietnam, I think.
Vietnam. Guerrilla warfare, also spelled guerrilla warfare, type
Afghanistan.
of warfare fought by irregular or fast-moving, small-scale actions against orthodox military and police forces, and on occasion against rival insurgent forces.
Yeah, so they're more of like rebellion.
Yeah,
groups.
it's all just like civilians that can do damage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Or ex-military, like who have basically helped civilians get to there.
Yeah.
You know, So that's the problem with it. It's because there's no full way of just destroying it. It's not like just overtaking a whole another country or government system, you know, and just implementing yours on.
When you put them on the timeline, you see that casualties were the heaviest at the end of the war. The war began on September 1st, 1939. But the US wasn't willing to join the fight until Pearl Harbor, 2 years in. The deaths increased drastically on D-Day, when the Allies invaded Normandy. One of the most tragic moments of the war was on D-Day at Omaha Beach, where 2,500 Americans fell. So about the same number of US soldiers died on this single beach landing. The bloodiest battle in the Pacific was Okinawa, which lasted 82 days, during which 12,500 Americans died.
82 days of warfare.
About 5,000 of these deaths.
82 days of warfare.
Nah, bro.
Can you imagine? You're slugging on this island, going from one point to the other. 82 days. You're having to go through every single inch, every single bush, every single tree, clearing it out. Right? If there's a cave or a bunker, you're yelling. What they used to do was the Japanese were so radicalized, they would scream into the caves and stuff like that. Surrender now. Come out without weapons, or we're going to enclose you.
Yeah, they just blow the tunnels up.
And then they would just blow the tunnels up, because the problem with it is they couldn't risk going in and losing their men.
Yeah, Vietnam tunnel rats were.
But
like,
this was before the Vietnamese. The Japanese were doing the same thing in the Pacific War. Yeah, the Japanese were crazy, bro. Like just not crazy, but they were loyal to their country. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no. The Japanese were probably some of the most loyal to their nation.
Yeah, they took their orders seriously. Like
they used to kill themselves if they'd like failed a mission. Or something.
Yeah, so it's called Sabu.
Go on.
No, I'm not going to butcher it.
Okay.
I'm not going to butcher it. Oh no, I'm not going to. I know the word.
At one point, I thought you were going to say Sudoku.
No, it's Sebuku. That's it. But not just that, man. Like there was this one story I remember. Okay, which was that basically there was this Japanese warrior out in the Pacific, and it was some years after the World War. I think it's double digits, so like 10, maybe 15 years after World War II.
Was this the guy that thought it was still going on?
Still going on, and the only way he left was they basically had to get his commanding officer, who was now living a completely normal life in Japan, to come over to the country in his uniform and order him to stand down.
Dedication.
Were at sea from kamikaze attacks. Now, 1,500 Americans died. About 5,000 of these deaths were at sea from kamikaze attacks.
So that's just America.
Yeah.
Now let's look at some other countries, starting with Europe. Germany started World War II when it invaded Poland. Poland ultimately lost 200,000 soldiers in the war. Most died after the invasion while the country was occupied by Germany and the Soviet Union.
Bro,
Germany, meanwhile, lost...
Bro, those numbers are crazy. 200,000, I believe it was, that Poland lost in the invasion. You know, when Germany and Russia invaded Poland from each side, and Germany only lost 16,000.
I'm after this video, I'm going to look into the, I think that's called the Katyn Massacre.
Yeah, I'm going to have a look in that, but I think what that probably was massacre of the Jews
like a
of
village
Poland.
Or something.
It was probably lined up like Jew village or something along them lines.
I want to look into that. I want to know what that was about.
It's just 16,000.
Obviously, if you guys know anything, then drop a comment down below.
The Nazis went on to invade and conquer other countries, including Denmark, Belgium, the Netherlands, France, Greece, and Yugoslavia. France surrendered, but after losing 92,000 soldiers in the Battle of France. Over 200,000 ultimately fell, which includes deaths in POW camps, French colonies, and other fighting. Yugoslavia suffered almost 500,000 military deaths. The initial invasion brought relatively few casualties on both
Also,
sides.
bro, don't forget, this is just military.
Yeah.
But the deaths mounted under Nazi occupation due to guerrilla fighting, civil conflict, and mass executions. The Nazi invasions were swift, with relatively few German losses.
So they took all those countries out, right? Done all that damage, and that's how many people they lost in their successful invasion compared to the other countries.
That is just ridiculous.
It's so bad, isn't it?
Even the Nazi commanders expressed surprise at their success. And then we have the United Kingdom and the United States, who were not invaded but took the fight to the Nazis. Britain lost about the same number of soldiers as the US, which includes the British colonies. Germany lost about 500,000 soldiers fighting the US and Britain in what is known as the Western Front, which took place in France and Belgium. But most Nazi soldiers died in the Eastern Front, Germany's unsuccessful invasion of the Soviet Union. The numbers
I knew they lost a lot in Russia, but that was...
Wait.
The most famous
Stalingrad.
battle of the Eastern Front, and perhaps the turning point of the European war, was Stalingrad. The German 6th Army successfully took Stalingrad, but then got surrounded by the Soviets and cut off from food and ammunition. 500,000 Nazis would ultimately die in Stalingrad. Another 100,000 were taken prisoner, of which 6,000 would ever return. POWs had a low survival rate throughout World War II, and it was particularly grim in the East. When you include these POWs, roughly the same number of Germans died in Stalingrad as all the Western Front fighting against France, the UK, and the US. And though Stalingrad was a victory for the Soviets, they suffered almost twice as many losses as Germany.
It didn't stop.
The Soviet Union would eventually defeat the once unstoppable German army, killing 2.3 million Nazi soldiers.
Look at the Russian side.
But winning the war came at a cost.
Yeah, how scary. It's not stopping, Jack.
No, it's not, and they're each 1,000 people.
They're each 1,000 people, Jack. It makes you physically sick, don't it? You're like, is it going to stop?
8.7 million is the official
8.7
tally by the
million.
Russian military, a hotly disputed number.
That was a Russian number.
And that
Do you
was
think
just
it's real?
military personnel.
That's just military personnel. Do you think that number's real? That's a Russian going, yeah, we lost about 8.7 million. Do you reckon that's just they've gone, yeah, it must have been around about that much. But they don't know. It could have been so much more. Yeah, 8.7 million.
Yeah.
That's a country. 8.7 million is a small country's population.
And obviously it was cold, right? So it's like Everest. Climbers go up there, they don't come back down. You don't find them for God
See,
knows
you
how
don't
many
know. You
years.
don't know how many of their
How
bodies were
many-
frozen or
Because
like gone over.
There were films where like you see like the Russians go into or Germany go into Russia. What was it? The White Ghost he was called.
I'm not too sure. I don't think
It was
I've
a
seen that.
sniper for the Russian army, and
Okay.
it got about 500 and something confirmed kills. Never used a scope, iron sights, because it gave if he used a scope, the reflection would have been given away.
Yeah, yeah.
He used to chew snow so his breath wouldn't be seen. Right, he got hit in the face with a bullet.
I
and he
need
still
to-
survived.
I need to
Yeah,
have
you
a
need
look
to
into
watch
this.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
you need to
yeah,
watch
yeah.
it. But he had some fucking skill.
That's intelligent.
Like, he
the
got
snow
thing
got me. The
He
snow thing
got
got
about
me. I was like, that's
500.
really
Yeah,
smart.
he got about 500 confirmed kills. Got hit to the face and still carried on.
Alright, well, I'm gonna have a look into that.
Yeah,
after
look
this.
into that after
Nice,
this.
Nice. So yeah, 8.7 million, and that's just the military so far, Jack.
That's crazy.
Look at that.
14 million.
Some studies have calculated as many as 14 million dead. To complete the count of European military deaths, we need to add German deaths from other fronts, including the North and Africa, as well as deaths from other Axis powers allied with the Nazis, Hungary, Romania, and Italy.
There you go.
When you put these European military deaths on the timeline, it looks like this.
Jesus.
You can now interact with the chart to learn more. And now we switch to
crazy,
civilian
bro.
deaths in Europe.
Civilians.
So crazy.
Oh no.
Yeah, bro. That video was very, very well done. So
Very well done. Yeah,
very well
definitely a
done.
massive
So-
shout out.
thank you very much, Neil Halloran, the Fallen of the World War II video. If you haven't checked it out already, please go over to him, like, subscribe, and comment on his video. He's done a fantastic job. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you liked our content, then again, please like, subscribe, and comment on ours, and we'll catch you next time.
Salam.